while you were on break. This was Bryan was the person who put the beat down on Pinnell.
And he's playing against Esper Control from Nathan Calvin. What looks to be, this matchup can be as good as you want it to be for green-white tokens. If your deck is more geared towards beating the aggressor strategies, then it's not a great matchup. But if you're more geared towards, as we see a Thoughtseize from Calvin on turn 1, he's going to push himself down to 16. If you're more geared towards beating Esper, you can do that with Rootborn Defenses and Advent of the Worm and Boon Satyr and just basically playing as a flash deck against them.
Yes. You also have access to a card for the Esper matchup that's not really prevalent in Standard, but was sort of a breakout sleeper at the Black Pro Tour, which is Debtor's Pulpit, which shores up your liabilities to Aetherling and Blood Baron. So if you want to go that deep, you can go that deep as well.
All right, so we take a look here at Olvera's hand. He's got a Celestial Charm. He's got a V2 Gazi Guildmage, which is what Thoughtseize is going to take. There's also an Advent Worm and a Scion of V2 Gazi, so he's definitely got a bigger version of green-white, where we've seen other versions that have multiple 1-drops in Experiment 1, maybe Elvish Mystic, Soldier of the Pantheon, stuff like that. Looks like Olvera may have played the wrong land. This is always a touchy situation here because you haven't made a game action, you can actually pick up your land and play a different one.
Yep.
So it looks like he just did play the wrong land, and he's going to go back and play a forest and just pass the turn back. So.
Yeah, he may have wanted white mana to cast a Selesnya Charm, for example.
I'm not quite sure he has a white mana, unless my eyes deceived me from that Thoughtseize. I could be wrong about that, however. He's going to draw a card. He is going to play a Plains. And pass the turn back. So Calvin just doing his thing with his Esper deck, just playing lands that come into play tap. There's a basic land and an island. And there's Selesnya Charm on the end step there from Bryan. Will Doomblade take care of this? Is it worth it to Doomblade that as opposed to an Advent of the Worm that you know could be coming?
As innocuous as that Selesnya Charm is, the fact that it has the potential to enable some populate effects down the road makes it worth thinking about, even though you don't really care that much about a 2-2.
Yep. So here's the Fleecemane Lion. Experiment 1 is going to evolve into a 2-2. This is Olvera basically saying to Calvin, do you have a Supreme Verdict, which he does have in his hand. We just don't know if he has a Lance of Cassidus. There goes the Fleecemane Lion. Calvin going to draw a card. It's a Jace. You see him pull forward the Tension Sphere, but he does not have another land. So D-Sphere looks like it's going to be the play of the day. But what is it going to target? All right, it's going to take care of Experiment 1.
And additionally, not only is Calvin missing a 4th land, he doesn't even have double white. So not all the land drops in his deck facilitate Supreme Verdict.
Olvera does draw his 4th land, does pass the turn back, so Divination off the top here from Calvin. So a Worm token is going to be coming here. Blood Baron, the draw. There's a Temple. It's going to leave the card on top. It's Advent of the Worm time. Again, that card is single white, double green, so that one's good to go. So a 5/5 Worm token is in play here. Olvera draws his card. He's going to come across for 7 points of damage. And if he has a card like Rootborn Defenses in his hand, he is sitting so pretty right now. And if he has another Advent of the Worm, he's actually good to go too. So now there's a Supreme Verdict. Calvin going to take 2 to do it, kill all of these things. And I think Olvera has another Advent of the Worm. He's going to show it to Calvin, and we're going to go on to a 3rd and final game here between Esper Control and green-white tokens to see who's going to play in the top 8.
So there's a really interesting dynamic to this matchup in my mind. Sometimes the green-white deck looks incredibly good in this matchup. The combination of Rootborn Defenses and the fact that it's able to play so much at instant speed on its opponent's turn with charms and advents. The fact that Voice of Resurgence is annoying to play against for the Esper deck. That Fleecemane Lion can be this indestructible hexproof threat. The green-white deck has all these tools that sometimes in concert with one another look insane against Esper. And there's other times where you watch the green-white deck play and it doesn't apply nearly enough pressure to get out in front of cards like Jace and Sphinx's Revelation. It's hard to slog through the Supreme Verdicts, and the Selesnya deck kind of just does nothing powerful to threaten the Esper deck. So the games have a really weird texture to them. They vary a lot from game to game. Yeah. Sometimes the green-white deck's mixture of powerful, aggressive tools and the right reactive elements just lines up really well against Esper. And sometimes the lack of initial pressure causes the Esper deck to sort of just play the game at its own pace.
Yeah, the tough part for the green and white deck is that it has no control over if it floods or not.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's nice about Mono Red and Boros is that those decks, if they flood a little bit, they're likely that they draw on a Mutavault so they can keep the pressure going. Or Mutavault makes so they don't have to extend very much, and that's really, really nice. But the green and white deck, its mana isn't very good, so it can't afford to play a card like Mutavault. You might be able to get away with one colorless land, if that.
Yep.
You know, a card that I actually tried playing in this deck was Rogue's Passage as a way to be able to break through in green-white mirrors. That card's not really very important nowadays because green-white mirrors aren't really a big thing. But again, you can't really afford to play Mutavault when your mana. I mean, the mana's so bad in this deck that Bryan is playing 4 copies of Selesnya Guildgate.
Yeah.
And to have bad mana for a 2-color deck where your mana is so stressed with, you know, you've got Boon Satyr that's double green, Advent that's double green, but you need white on turn 2 and green so that you can play Fleecemane Lion and Selesnya Charm, Call the Conclave, all that stuff. It's really stressed mana. And so as a result, if you draw 6 or 7 lands in the game, you've likely lost.
Yeah, I mean, 7 plains, 9 forests is some Mercadian Mask block action there.
Yeah,
I mean,
yuck.
we haven't seen mana bases like that in quite a while. But it is kind of a function of the format, and you know, to some extent, we've been spoiled by the quality of mana the last couple of years. I actually like a reversion to, playing extra colors is a real cost, and things aren't free, and you know, you can't just cram everything that you want into your deck. I actually like that kind of deck building better than the do whatever you want, more or less style that we've been in for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm much more of a fan of, you know, if you're going to play second color, there's a cost associated with that. If you're going to play 4 Mutavaults in your deck, there is a chance that you just draw 2 of them and you just kind of mess around and you just end up losing because you didn't draw enough of the actual basic lands. Stuff like that. Everything should have a cost instead of just like, let's do this. As many colors as I want.
What are you playing? Well, I'm playing Band Control, Splashing Drown Yard.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? But, and for all you blue-white and green-white enthusiasts out there, you can look forward to the printing of your temple. That's
true.
That's another thing that's going to immediately improve these decks.
See, both players are going to keep their 7 cards very, very quickly. Calvin going to start off here with a Temple of Deceit. We are underway in game number 3. Temple Garden untapped. Going to start with an Experiment 1. Very important for Olvera to get off to a fast start in game 3 when he's on the draw.
Yeah, he has to force the Esper deck to react and play on its own turn to some degree.
Temple of Silence from Calvin. He's going to scry. Olvera's going to come in for 1, so he does not have a way to level that up, and he does not have a second land.
And Selesnya Charm, Azorius Charm rather, the draw for Calvin. So if there's no land drop here,
yeah,
he can.
An absolute beating.
Yeah.
I hate to pronounce a game over before it is over, but this is just that's a time walk. That's an actual time walk.
Yes.
That's Azorius Charm. And now Jace is going to come into play, and you know, it really makes you wonder what hand Olvera kept, because this is a hand I see at least 1 Advent of the Worm, maybe 2, where he had to draw not just 1 land, but a ton of lands, so he had to get back in this game.
Yep.
And when you're playing for top 8, I mean, the thing is that you're allowed to mulligan.
Yeah, it's a game rule.
Yeah, it's not like this thing where it's like, oh God, I had to mulligan. It's like, all right, I get to mulligan. So, you know, I just don't really like to keep here, because against Esper, if he doesn't draw like running lands, he's just dead. Like, you're not dead in the sense that, like, man, I got ran over by a red deck. You're dead in the sense that, like, there's a Jace, here comes Revelation, now there's Bloodbaron on the table, and I can't do anything.
Yeah, if you're going to be Esper, it's really important for the first 3 turns of the game for you to be doing something really significant. Hands that fail that test is just...
Yeah, here's a Thoughtseize to figure out exactly what Bryan kept. He's got a Fleecemane Line, 2 of them actually. He's got a Selesnya Charm, a Broodborn Defenses, double Advent of the Worm, and a Loxodon Spider. And again, you're basically making it so that you have to draw multiple lands in a row, because remember that when you're playing against Esper, especially on the play, it's not very much difficult for them to just go, oh, you played a Fleecemane Line? Kill it.
Right.
All right, play your next guy, kill that one too.
And even with this hand, if Bryan's first land that he draws after his Temple Garden is Selesnya Guildgate, this hand's still not good enough to win, like taking that turn off. So a lot had to break right. There's obviously a lot of power in Bryan's hand as well, because it's all spells, but it seems like the risks were not worth the rewards.
Bloodbaron going to be on mop-up duty here, as Jace looks like it's going to tick up. I want to make sure that he did actually turn that die up there, which I believe he did, I think, on turn. Yeah, okay, now we're good. Yeah, so he's going to take it down. So, yeah, because he went from 4 to 2, and then on turn 5 he moved up and played Bloodbaron. So in this one it should be on 3, and he can either take it up to 4 or down to 1. I think he's deciding how he wants to use Jace, which is the mini factor fiction to show a hero's downfall, a Thoughtseize, and a Sphinx's Revelation. It's going to be tough.
Take all 3 of them, whatever.
Yeah, the old 3-0
yeah,
pile.
You get them all.
Yeah. And this is what I mean about, like, even though, like, Calvin has a Bloodbaron, even if he didn't have a Bloodbaron here, as there's another Jace, and he's just going to tick it up, even if he didn't have a Bloodbaron, it's just like the game is over at this point. There's really no coming back. It's like, Fleecemane Line, you're too late to the party now.
Yep.
Also, you don't matter on turn 8, unless, you're playing it and you have the ability to monstrosity it in the same turn.
But now Bloodbaron just gets to run do its thing here.
Another Thoughtseize here. He knows the contents of Calvin's hand. That Rootborn Defenses is likely the most annoying card, leaving it with Smiter, double, Advent of the Worm, and a Selesnya Charm. Cards that Calvin knows about and makes it so that he does not lose to them.
Multiple revelations, multiple removal spells. Calvin's hand's just loaded.
Blood Baron going to come across here, going to knock Olvera down to 10. Calvin going to move up to 18. Wouldn't be surprised if we just see an Ultimate Price or Detention Sphere here. Again, and if you're Calvin in this situation where you're so far ahead, take your time.
Yeah, no reason to rush here.
Figure out what you want to D-Sphere, why you want to D-Sphere. If you're going to Ultimate Price or Doomblade something, the reasons for that. If you're going to Jace up or down, the reasons for wanting to make those plays.
I would actually, if I'm going to kill anything, it's probably the Experiment one because I'm happy allowing Bryan to keep whatever white creature he wants because of Blood Baron.
Absolutely.
Just reduce the amount of chump blocking he can do. This is all pretty marginal because I think Nathan's hand's just too loaded, but I would start off by, this is fine too, I mean,
Yeah, and this was the turn here where I don't believe he used his Jace.
But, again, not a huge deal.
It's just, this is the thing that separates, your good player from your great player. Your great player will, make sure that you don't rush when you're winning.
Right.
That's the big difference. Where, even though you are winning, there's no need to rush. You can make sure that you just close all windows from your opponent so they can't do anything to get back into this. And Sirte Sphinx's Revelation, and that is going to do it. So Nathan Calvin is going to win this match over Bryan Olvera 2-1. Esper Control defeating green-white tokens. So we'll have at least one Esper Control deck in the top 8, but it's hostile territory for that deck.